to the Sacred Soul podcast. I have Alex Wolfe here with me today as a guest, and we're going to have a great conversation. So, first off, Alex, thank you so much for being here. I'm excited
Thank
just
you.
to chit chat.
Thank you. Great to be here with you, and I'm excited for it as well. So let's
Yeah,
go.
awesome. Let's go. And actually, first, what's coming up before I even go into the conversation, what's coming up for me right now is earlier this year, you and I were in a coffee shop with a mutual friend of ours, Jason.
Yes.
And we were all kind of hanging out. I think I was getting ready to leave, and I said something to you. Somehow we started talking about podcasts,
Hmm.
and Jason asked me something, and I said like some random excuse, right? I'm like, "Oh yeah, I haven't started my podcast yet because blah 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 blah." I was like putting in all this effort to have like this, excuse, and you just gave me one look. I don't even know if you said much. You were just kind of like how when someone calls BS.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't
And
co-sign that.
right. Yeah, yeah. You did not let that you did not what's the word? Enable me. You were kind of just like and your energy just held a certain presence. So it's not like guys, he didn't shame me. He didn't like none of that. Not that's not what I'm talking about. He just held space and he was like, okay, that's interesting that she's like putting this perspective, like she's participating in this limiting perspective. So I'm just going to reflect back to her. Just with your energy, you might have said something else after maybe, but your energy spoke louder than your words, and that was like really helpful for me. Is like putting up that mirror. And for anyone who knows human design, Alex is a reflector. And so he literally was just sitting there as a mirror. And I was like, oh, okay, yep, I'm making up excuses.
I love that story, and I'm grateful you reminded me of that. That I remember that moment now, and yeah, I wasn't buying it. I was. It felt like an excuse, and I wasn't buying into the excuse, and I'm definitely not an enabler of that. And I felt intuitively that you have it in you, and
Yeah.
here we are. So you
Here we
clearly
are.
do.
Yeah.
Clearly do.
Well, and thank you for being there for that, right? Like just
Yes.
your presence was just so powerful. So just
Um,
yeah, thank you.
thank you
It's
for saying
amazing
that.
what
Appreciate
what
that.
people, yeah, what the people around us, how they can just support us just by being there, just by listening.
Hmm. Yes,
Mhm.
presence, powerful. Yeah,
Yes.
totally.
Yeah. Cool. So, Alex, one question I like to start off with, which has helped me in my journey, because my journey has been this rapid expansion in the last 7 years. I'm coming up on my 7 year anniversary on Saturday, which is when like my awakening started, when I left this crazy lifestyle I was living and got launched into plant medicines and all these things. And it was so much expansion so rapidly. There was times where I was like, uh-oh, am I crazy? Am I lost? And so one question that has helped me anchored, and I use it with my friends, my family, my clients, it just kind of helps us just update our perspectives about ourselves. And
Hmm.
then it inspires other people to kind of look at themselves in that light and have that curiosity. And the question is, who are you and who are you not?
I love this question. What a way to kick off the podcast. Um, I am a being of energy, and I am here, and I am alive, and I am fully present with you, and I'm in this moment, and I am open and ready to share and connect and dive as deep as we want to go here. And I am not my name. I am not my identity. I am not my body. I am not my thoughts. I am not my emotions. I am really nothing but energy. And God too is no thing. So I'll just leave it at that.
I love that. That I'm gonna have to like replay that later and smile at the end.
Sweet.
That was really good, really deep. Like it's still landing. I love that. God is nothing. Mm, beautiful. So tell us, how did your journey start with plant medicines? What's the
Hmm.
summary?
Yeah, I'll do my best to sum it up as quickly as I can. My plant medicine journey started really Well, it started early on with cannabis. I do consider cannabis a plant medicine, although I don't participate in cannabis anymore. I'm very grateful for that medicine. And I'll say there's no judgment for people that use cannabis. I used it for many, many years, and that was my introduction, truly was a gateway medicine into plant medicine. But I will say that I believe that plant medicine has been dramatically genetically modified, and it no longer has its true essence. It has been corrupted. So I'll leave it at that. That was my intro into plant medicine, and that helped me for many years go in and out of my left to right brain. But I was mostly in my left brain. I lived most of my life up until a few years ago, Vanessa, really in my head. I was very much in my head. I was a doer. I was focused on achieving things in the 3D matrix and getting things done and constantly filling up my to-do list with things to do, staying as productive as possible. And there was nothing wrong with that. And there is nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. That's just where I was at until I went to Peru in 2016 with my best friend, Jeff. And we went to Peru for a few weeks. And that's where I really started diving into plant medicine, ayahuasca and wachuma and, or San Pedro and mushrooms and hape and you name it. We had several ceremonies there over the few weeks. And this was the first time and the first glimpse that I had that there was an other way to live besides being in your head. I got to experience what it was to be in my heart truly for the first time, which is a little bit embarrassing, but it's true. It took me till 2016 to really realize, wow, there's a whole other way to live. And then I've spent the last year since then really integrating, going from head to heart, and just keeping them now in coherence as much as possible, as much as I can. And I'll admit it's a daily practice. So there's times where I'm still really in my head, and then there's times I'm really in my heart, and then there's times where they're both coherent. And I find the coherence times the best times. It's really just a beautiful way to be and to live. And I feel more present. And so I've spent the last several years diving in and out of plant medicine and really honoring the plant medicine and yeah, using it. It started off really using it with intention. And then I'll be honest, I got pretty carried away and started using it irresponsibly and really started psychonauting and exploring these
Mm.
other spiritual realms and really, really blasting off with it. And then I got really humbled by the plant medicines, and they showed me like, hey, this is sacred stuff here, and we've been around a lot longer than you, and it gave me a real reverence and a real respect for the plant medicine. So now it's used with the utmost respect, and I meet it halfway whenever I do participate in any plant medicine ceremony or even microdosing. I have a protocol, and I have a utmost respect for plant medicines and mushrooms, and they've become a good portion of my life's work is to help bring these plant medicines to the world responsibly. And that's the key word that I'll leave it on is responsibly.
Yeah, that's so important. And we hear stories of, and you experienced it yourself, but we also hear stories of people just using it, with kind of, and they might lose that intention. Not to say that they didn't have it in the beginning, um, but yeah, it's just this ongoing discernment and balance. Any or too much of anything. That's what it is. Too much of anything is
Yeah.
not healthy. Even water,
Yeah.
if someone drinks water way too rapidly, like they can die.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
totally. There's a middle way, like the Taoists say, there's the extremes, and then there's in the middle, and that's what I strive for, is to be in the middle as much as I can. And it's a daily practice.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. And what is one big takeaway from sampling, or not sampling, but I guess engaging and participating and having reverence for the different medicines? And I know you have a lot of knowledge about mushrooms, which we'll get into in just a second. But what is like the biggest takeaway from sampling or engaging with those different medicines?
The first takeaway that comes to mind is that they can help you easier access into the spiritual realm. And I have zero doubts in my being that the spiritual realm is real. And that's a gift that I've received, is I have no question that the spiritual realm is real, and there's a whole other world going on. And that to me is pretty inspiring. It's not just this life is awesome. This world is great. It's a wild ride, and it's a whole game in itself. And then there's a spiritual realm, and that keeps me really humble, knowing that it's infinite. It's filled with infinite possibilities. And so that it's a constant reverence of, yeah, there's this physical world, and there's a spiritual world, and there's a lot going on in that spiritual world that I don't know about. So it keeps me humble. It keeps me as a student, forever a student, always willing to learn. And it keeps me personally um in a close relationship with God.
Hmm. Beautiful. Yeah, because it just allows us to go to those other dimensions and honestly just remember who we are. I feel like that's what happens when we go off, when we blast off, or maybe we just go deep. Some of the medicines, Wachuma just makes me like I'm in my healthy masculine. I'm super present with my body in a way that typically I have to like try really hard to be in my body. But it's just remembering like who we are, and some of it comes back to that presence, like I'm nothing, but I'm present.
Yeah, well said. Exactly. It reminds me, it helps me remember that I am a spiritual being having a physical experience, and that's really expansive. And it allows me to really go to the edges of myself, knowing, because spirit is always wanting to expand. So that spiritual experience for me is always expanding and going to my edges of uncomfortability. And I love that, because it sucks to be uncomfortable. So the more that I could put myself in these uncomfortable situations, the fewer things actually become uncomfortable. And then I'm
Mhm.
really, does that make sense to you? I'm really
Yep,
just
you change
going.
your relationship with discomfort. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And it helps me do that. So it's been a blessing, and it's humbling as well. And I enjoy humility. It's something I've learned over the years. And it's constantly keeping me in that student mindset, which I love, because then I'm open to learn, I'm willing to learn, and there's just so much to learn. It never ends. So it's wonderful.
Yeah, I love that. And speaking of plant medicines, a question popped up in my mind. Typically sometimes people have a hard time orienting, or we can call that grounding. We can call that
Mm.
anchoring. We can call that just having direction. Maybe after a mushroom ceremony or
Mm.
any kind of other plant medicines. Do you have any tips or suggestions or insight on that?
On how to ground or how to integrate?
Yeah, or yeah, or orientation. I mean, it's a multi-layered question. So yeah, just kind of finding your place and reorienting to this 3D reality that we are in after you have those big expansion spiritual experiences.
Yeah, totally. It's a skill. It really is a skill, and I'll give my tips and tricks of the trade to how to that I've learned over the years from masters and samurais in psychonauting, if you will, and myself. The key word I would say after is space. You really want to give yourself some space, and that can be that can be tricky or challenging, because we often fill up our calendars and fill up our schedules and to-do lists with so many things to do. But these medicines and these ceremonies, I believe the best thing after for ourselves is some space to really give ourselves the opportunity to ground in. And that could be with just being present with yourself and reflecting on these downloads or reflecting on these wisdoms that have come through from going into the spiritual realm. There's so much, like I said, it's like infinite amount of knowledge there. You're tapping into the infinite mind, possibly God's mind. It's really it's hard to put into words, but you're really tapping into this ethereal realm where there's so much wisdom there. And so it takes some space for myself and most people to be able to absorb that information and then really embody it. And then if we don't take the space, if we do the opposite of that and we just, okay, I got to get back to work or I got to get back to my responsibilities, which are real, we
Mhm.
often don't get to absorb them into our being, into our DNA, and we don't get to really embody them. It's like you really just got like a drive-by version or a drive-through version of the experience, and then we don't really get to hold on to those frequencies that we tapped into. They just come and go, and that's okay, but it's really missing the point. I believe the purpose of these medicines is to go, expand, learn, bring back the knowledge, and then okay, embody them so we can make a change in our life. And then ideally that change ripples out and influences others to make changes, positive changes in their life.
Yeah, beautifully said. Beautifully said. And it's like these medicines are because we're going into these altered states, whether you're having a spiritual experience or maybe you don't feel like it's spiritual, but you still had some kind of altered experience. It allows you to create new neural pathways. When you
Yes.
get back to your place or when you get back to your comfort zone, your room or like your house, whatever that is, but if you keep going, right, and you kind of pick up where you left off and you don't provide that space, like you were mentioning, those new neural pathways actually can't fully like settle in, right? They can't like fully replace the old ones.
Yes.
Um, yeah, so really, really important.
Well said. Yeah, those new neural pathways is a good way to put it in the more, tangible way. What's happening is we can create new outlooks and we could those outlooks become thoughts and the thoughts become actions if we act upon them, and then those actions become habits, and then habits really end up making up most of the choices in your life, and your choices create your destiny. So it really starts with that. You get the insight, and then that could start the new neural pathway in your brain, but you have to embody it and you have to take action with those new insights and make a change. And I found that a lot of people, and myself included, for many years, I was very reluctant to change. It was like, no, this is my way, and it's working to a certain extent, and I'm going to continue with that. But if nothing changes, nothing changes. So it's like you really have to just make the change, and then that will change your personality, and your personality is really your personal reality. So there's
Yes.
yeah, so there's it's a process and it's fun. It could be a game, it could be choose your own adventure if you want it to be.
Yeah, yeah. And Joe Dispenza says that often, I think, your personality is your personal reality. And when I first heard that, it really hit home. I was like, oh, so I could change my personal reality and that will change my personality.
Totally.
And it's
Totally.
true.
It's so true. It's so true. I'm living example of that. I radically changed my life and my personality in 2015, and it set me on this whole other trajectory that I never thought I would be on from my identity's point of view. And it's true. It's just and to summarize it all and recap it is like these plant medicines can be a wonderful tool for that if used in the right way. They could also be a disaster if used in the wrong way. So it's like I've learned that it takes a lot of reverence and a lot of responsibility, and it's not all fun and games, but it can be absolutely wonderful and healing and powerful and all the things.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just curious, do you have a bad trip that you could share with us?
I wouldn't say that I have a bad trip.
Okay. Okay.
Personally, I've had extremely challenging
Okay.
experiences. And really, what it was when I look back, it was just really facing facing things that happened that I stored in my body that I was avoiding, suppressing, repressing. And these mushrooms, especially, can be wonderful teachers to go within, like you said, and really just face it, And I believe there's a lot of power in that. And I love that. And I will still, I microdose often. I'm on a microdosing protocol right now, 5 days on, 2 days off.
Mm.
And this really helps like the daily aspect of it because it doesn't really allow me to suppress or avoid my feelings.
Yeah.
They're there, and when something comes up, when somebody says something that's maybe triggering, I feel it in my body, and it's like, oh boy, I got something here that I got to face, and I get to face it, which is awesome. So I'm constantly cleaning house, and then once in a while, once every couple months, I will sit with a larger amount of psilocybin, usually by myself, and it's really like a cleaning house where it's like a deep clean where I go in and things come up from when I was in my 20s or in my childhood or teenage years. And it's like, wow, there was something that happened there that I never really sat with or never forgave myself, or I never showed myself love in that situation. And I truly believe there's something really healing with that. And that's what one of the main reasons I love psilocybin is it gives us this opportunity to like go back in time within ourselves and love ourselves through that situation. And I come to believe, Vanessa, that these energies that we store inside are there until we just accept them and surrender to them and just let them go. And for myself personally, and many people that I know, mushrooms, magic mushrooms or psilocybin has been extremely helpful with that.
It's beautiful. Yeah. You're basically completing that emotional process
Yeah.
that sometimes can get interrupted within our daily experiences or our lives, or we're busy, or someone says don't cry, or
Yeah.
or we don't want to show our anger at a board meeting, or like whatever the thing is, right? But it's like we have to come back. And right
Yeah.
now I'm choosing to label myself, I'm wearing this hat for a certain period of time, calling myself an emotional healer until it transforms into something else.
Cool.
um but it's really interesting to dive into this emotional awareness for myself and for my clients, because it's like, yeah, this we think of emotions as just like kind of like, oh, we get to choose if we experience it. And
Mm.
I kind of see it now as it's not really a choice. Like,
Yeah.
if it's showing up in your present reality, I mean, the choice is different. Do I receive it or do I resist it? And then
Totally.
that will determine, that's like a two-way street that kind of splits off into different directions. And of course, if you choose not to feel something in the moment, you could still have the intention to do some kind of weekly check-in with yourself to kind of unpack the week or whatever it is. But over time, for most of us, our experiences is we just block, suppress, and we get into this emotional survival mode.
Yeah, totally. Well said. Well said. And I was a big proponent to that in my life. I would spend most of my life either avoiding a certain feeling or trying to achieve a certain feeling. And that's
Mm.
where, biohacking was very good for the latter because I was constantly looking to achieve a certain feeling. And it wasn't until I realized that I can become my own feelings dealer, like I could really choose to feel however I want to feel. And I was constantly looking to the future for salvation, where I was like, oh, once I have, this job, or once I have this role, I'll feel a certain way, or once I live in this house, or make this amount of money, or have this romantic partner, then I'll feel great. But it was like, have I felt that? So I would imagine what that feeling was. I'm like, okay, well, do I really want to feel? I want to feel, fulfilled or content or grateful. I was like, Do I know what that feeling is? Yeah, I know what that feeling is. Can I feel that feeling now? Will I give myself to permission to feel that now? And if I couldn't, then I'd be like, okay, what's blocking that? What is blocking that? And then there would be something there that I'd be like, oh, well, this disappointment happened, or this relationship didn't work out because of this. And it was like, well, I could forgive myself for that. And then it was just like that block kind of just went away. And then I was like, yeah, I can choose to feel fulfilled now. It's a choice. It is a choice. And then just feeling into that. And then it would start to attract the situation on its own. It would start to, like, things would happen, and I'd get a promotion, or I'd get a new deal, or I'd move, or it was really interesting. So I love that there's, you know, it can be a choice, but eventually we got to face the feeling that's blocking it. And once we do, even if it's uncomfortable or even if it's painful, there's really, the freedom lies on the other side of the pain or the uncomfortability. And then it becomes a lot easier to choose the feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. It loses power over you.
Mm,
Yeah.
yes.
And I like to remind people, doesn't mean that you're going to forget about it, or that that the slate is completely clean. It just doesn't have power.
Right.
Again, changing, just how you mentioned something earlier about how you change your relationship with discomfort. It's just like changing our relationship with the thing, the emotion, the
Yeah.
relationship, the self-doubt. Like self-doubt can be turned into self-curiosity. You
Yeah.
know, it's the same
Absolutely.
energy, except one is a little bit of a higher vibration. And so you're just changing your relationship with that.
Mm,
So really powerful.
I love that. I love that. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you. So tell us about your journey with healing your gut. I think I saw something and you had a really good clip. And so I wanted to learn more. What was that journey like? And I know mushrooms played a role. So what was that like?
It sure did. Thanks for asking. That was a big, big, pivotal moment in my life that really set me on a whole new trajectory. And I was launching a business in California at the time called Shop CBD. And under all the usual pressures and stresses of running a startup and managing a team and, launching products into market, there's a lot that goes into it. And I was really feeling the pressure. I had anxiety for the first time in my life. I was just brain fogged and fatigued, and nothing that I was really doing was really working. All my old tricks and my biohacking, it wasn't getting the job done, and my relationships were suffering. I was suffering, and I was really feeling the pressure. And it wasn't until one day I got a call from a shareholder checking in on me, checking in on the business. And I took the opportunity to just tell him the truth. And I said, you know what? And usually when shareholders call, they're looking for reassurance and they just want to know everything is going well. And I was like, honestly, man, I'm feeling the pressure. I have this fatigue and this anxiety, and it sucks. And I'm like, I'm taking all the CBD in the world and it's not working. And I was like, I don't get it, And then I'm like, I'm doing all these things. I'm meditating. I'm working out. I'm eating clean. Like, I don't know what the issue is. And he's like, you gotta heal your gut. He said it right away. I was like, what do you mean heal my gut? And he's like, I've been studying the gut biome for over 20 years. And if you could come to understand the science of the relationship between your gut, your microbiome, the sun, the soil, fungi, your brain, and beyond, he said you will upgrade your relationship to nature and you will shift from a consumer to a co-creator in this world. And that was the line that really just blew me away. And I was like, wow, okay. And he said, have you ever heard of functional mushrooms for gut health? And I said, no, I haven't. He's like, okay, well, I recommend looking into that. So I watched Fantastic Fungi, and I started researching mushrooms and how they play a factor in the gut biome. And I've learned that these mushrooms were around for millions of years, and they were used in health practices in ancient China and ancient Egypt for thousands of years. And they're just not that popular here in the West just yet. And so I was like, wow, there's these mushrooms are incredibly powerful, and they're loaded with polysaccharides that are, they help improve digestion, and they're anti-cancerous, and they're anti-aging, and they're all these things, and they're really biologically valuable to the gut. And your gut is really connected to your, it has an axis, the gut brain axis. Then if your gut is in good health, you start to get clarity around your mental health. And I've felt that clarity is a major code in this life. You can just make better choices, and you can show up better for the people that you
Mm.
care about. So I started to get this clarity again. My brain fog went away in a couple weeks. I didn't have anxiety anymore. I felt clear. I felt calm, and I felt collected. And I was like, man, there's really something to these mushrooms. And I became obsessed. I became literally obsessed with mushrooms, trying all different types of mushrooms, experimenting with them, functional mushrooms, magic mushrooms, all the mushrooms. And I've learned that these mushrooms are really nature's technology. They are the oldest network in the world, and they're constantly communicating to all of nature. And I truly believe nature has all the answers. It's filled with wisdom. It's filled with this harmonic frequency that we can tap into. And I believe we're energetical beings. We operate on frequency and vibration. And the more that we can tap into nature, and these mushrooms, these fungi are grounded in nature. They're literally like nature's technology, that there's codes there, and they could help our physical health and emotional health and mental health. So yeah, it's been an awesome journey, like for myself, a healing journey. And I used that motivation to really start this venture and this business and this company with a bunch of other experts in their field, and we're having a lot of fun doing it.
Amazing. Amazing. Clarity is a code.
Clarity is a code for
I
sure.
love that.
Clarity is a
And
code. Clarity and
mushroom.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
No, I was just gonna say clarity and confidence is a really powerful combination, because you're clear on where you're going, and then you have the confidence to move forward, and it just compounds. It's like compound interest, and it just compounds into great things in this world. So yeah, I invite anyone to really get clear with themselves, and having a good healthy gut is a great way to start. And it doesn't have to be through mushrooms, but mushrooms can be a great way to help that out.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. And having the intention, right? So if clarity is the intention, then it could help, or just find something that supports your intention for clarity.
Totally.
That's
Absolutely.
powerful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Amazing. And what are some other incredible results that you've experienced in addition to healing your gut health and having that clarity and regrounding with one of nature's best technologies? What else have you experienced?
Oh wow. It all started with clarity, but then it gave me the energy again to really improve my physical well-being. I would cordyceps mushroom is an amazing mushroom for energy. It actually increases your body's capability to produce oxygen. So
I
there's
didn't know that.
yeah, it's
I'm on
incredible.
an
There's
oxygen supplement. It's all natural, but still, I'd rather just take the functional mushroom for it.
yeah, and that's what this mushroom was designed for. There's this whole story, and I'll probably butcher it, but it's there's a story in the Himalayas where these yaks would eat this cordyceps mushroom, and they'd be able to travel higher up on the mountain because it's climatizing them, and it's oxygenating their blood. And there's this whole thing, and I probably missed some parts of it, but yeah, these mushrooms are just they're magic. Even if they're
Mm.
non-psychedelic, they're just so tapped into nature's codes. And so yeah, it helped my physical well-being, and I believe that's a key part of it, like exercise, and giving that energy so I could go and exercise or go for a walk in nature and spend more time in nature, take a break from my phone and screens and stuff like that is really helpful. If you don't have the energy, it's going to be tough to do that. And they've helped my sleep dramatically too. Like I've become obsessed with sleep. I've been tracking my sleep for years now with the Aura Ring, and I've come to learn there's like a clear connection with sleep and it's just such a vital part of our life. It's wild that, we spend a third of our life sleeping. So, or trying to sleep. And if we don't get that rest, personally, if I don't get, a good solid sleep, it's very challenging for me to show up the next day and, you know, face everything and rise and be the leader that I know I can be. So yeah, it just helps me get to the starting point of wellness, and I believe wellness is not an end goal. It's really a starting point. And these functional mushrooms specifically can help me just get to that starting point so I could show up and be the man that I know I could be for my friends and my family and my team. And yeah, it gives me a chance in this crazy game called life.
This roller coaster that we're on.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
like a 80-year roller coaster, right? Or 90-year, however long we want to live, right?
Yeah, it's wild and it's a gift. It's incredible. It keeps blowing me away, this life. It's just filled with it just never ends. There's always something new. There's always a new challenge. There's always, just when you think you got to figure it out, it's like, no, here we go. Here's
Nope. There's always a humbling moment. I
always.
feel like
So
the universe is like, nope.
yeah, yeah, not
Like,
quite. So
like you're doing well, but there's still more to learn.
there's still so much more. There's still so much more, and it's fun. And yeah, I believe, God has an amazing sense of humor. So it keeps things
Yeah.
interesting all the time.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful, beautiful. So now I want to dive into what you're putting out in the world, your businesses, your mission, all of it. Tell us a little bit about your intentions behind your businesses right now and the impact that it's making in the world.
Oh, cool. Thank you. So yeah, a few years ago when I was on this healing journey, got into the functional mushrooms, realized, okay, this is a thing. It's been around for thousands of years. Why isn't that many people doing this here in the West, in America? So we started a company called Circadian Wellness, and we wanted to bring the power of mushrooms to the world. So we created a really cool brand called Eons, because mushrooms have been around for eons and they're eons ahead in their capabilities. So we started a brand called Eons, and we wanted to come out with fun and innovative ways for people to ingest these mushrooms, because a lot of times people don't like the taste of just eating regular mushrooms, and these cordyceps mushrooms and stuff don't taste that good. So we created healthy products for people to consume these mushrooms, get the mushrooms into their daily lives to give them more energy, give them better sleep, give them calm and focus so they can consume or create more in their life and consume more energy so they can put out more energy. So yeah, it's been awesome. We've got smart mushroom gummies, smart mushroom coffee, which is a smarter way to drink coffee without any anxiety or jitters or caffeine crash. Um, and then we got some really cool products coming out that I'm really excited about. We went and got 14 patents around bioavailability. So for the listeners, bioavailability is your body's ability to absorb active ingredients. A lot of supplements, probably 90% of supplements out there are just traditional in the sense that they go through your digestive system and they lose a lot of their active ingredient in getting processed by your liver. So you'd actually have to overdose on them to really get the full effects of the medicine or the nutrients. So we've figured out a way how to solve that. And we were coming out in the next couple months with a dissolvable tablet that melts in your mouth and it goes right into your bloodstream. So the active ingredients go right into your bloodstream right away within seconds. And then you're feeling the full effects of the active ingredient immediately. So it's very rapid, it's very powerful. You don't have to overdose on all this stuff. It's like a micro dose, but your body's taking it in as like if it's a macro dose. And
Mm.
there's a validation experience for the user, so they try it and they feel a certain way every single time. And I believe consistency is a big part of the user experience. And we're really going to go after the problem of sleep and really try to solve people's sleep problems. I'm constantly seeking out insomniacs so I can give them prototypes, and if they're willing to participate and test these products out, because I really want to solve the problem of sleep with everything that's going on in the world. It's getting harder and harder for people to sleep. We're spending more time looking at
Mhm.
screens, and the blue light is deteriorating our sleep hormones, our melatonin. So that's a problem I want to solve, and my team is dedicated to solving that problem. And we believe mushrooms can be a big help in that, especially combining it with biotechnology. So yeah, I'm excited for that. We also have some legal microdosing products that we're working on that will come out next year as well, for people that are want to go deeper into their emotional experience. And it's not with psilocybin, but that we've discovered another mushroom that has been around for thousands of years that has psychedelic properties, but it's not as intense as psilocybin. So it could be an easier or a smoother entry for people to experiment with a psychedelic mushroom, and maybe give them the courage one day to go and experience a ceremony with a facilitator or something like that. But really just want to give people the tools, give them nature's technology so they can improve their life and show up for the people that they love, and just live their best life.
Amazing. I love that. And I just gotta say thank you. Like, thank you for offering this to the collective because, like, we need more options. We need solutions. We're all aware of our medical system and how impactful that really is. And so I believe in this concept of a new earth. And
Yes.
these are the kinds of companies, these are the kinds of supplements and products that can really help us evolve that will replace coping mechanisms or things that have just not worked for people. So thank you for bringing this out and doing what you do. It's amazing.
Thank you. And yeah, it's my pleasure. It's my mission. It's my joy. It's my privilege to do this. I get to do this. I'm super pumped. I feel like I'm working for the mushrooms. I'm constantly in communication with them, and they're like, "All right, here we go. Here's the codes. Let's get out there together." So it's truly a privilege. And for me, it's all about just getting people back to nature. And I believe, the more that we connect with nature, nature has the answers. And if that means starting with mushrooms to get you to that point of wellness where you don't need, to put toxins in your body, you don't need these other medicines, these toxic medicines, that's awesome. And it doesn't mean that you need to use mushrooms as a crutch or anything. If it just gets you back to the point of wellness, and then you're good on your own again, that's awesome. That's it's a bonus for me. Like, we just want to help people get back to nature and get back to wellness.
Yeah, beautiful. And I totally agree. And I interpret that in my language, it's like getting back to the true self.
Mm, yes, that's
Yeah.
powerful. That's powerful.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah. So good. So as we start to wrap up, I think I have two questions left. One is, do you have any insight for conscious entrepreneurs? I feel like that's on a rise right now.
Mm.
I'm loving it. Like I want to empower people. Like so many of my clients are bringing products to market or doing things or again contributing to this new earth, kind of redoing whatever hasn't been working for us. So do you have any insight for any conscious entrepreneurs out there?
Absolutely. Yeah, the entrepreneurial journey is such a journey. So it's a lot of work. It's tough, and you just got to be ready for that. And the best way to get ready for that is to get really clear with your why. Why are you doing this? And ask yourself that question over and over and over till you get to the root, the real root of why. And I had to ask myself the question, why do I want to do this? And then I get an answer, and then be like, okay, but why? And I do this over and over and over till I got to the root. And the root for me was, I want to bring people back to nature. I believe we've got so far from nature, so disconnected from nature. And I believe nature has all the answers. So it's like, I want to be more in nature. I want to be in a more natural state and in a natural harmonic rhythm with nature. And I want to, yeah, just bring people back to that. And for whatever reason, it led me to mushrooms, and mushrooms are, guiding me on this journey. But yeah, for the entrepreneurs out there, I'd say get really clear with your why, and that will be your motivating force. You'll know it just deep down in your core when things get challenging, to be able to move through it. And it's going to take grit. It's going to take a lot of grit. It's a long process. It's a big mountain to climb, but eventually you'll climb the mountain one day at a time, and it's so worth it.
Powerful. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'd say another one, just a practical one that's helped me as well, is getting comfortable with uncomfortability, because there's going to be a lot of things come up that you didn't even think about coming involved with entrepreneurship. A lot of uncomfortable conversations, and you're probably going to need a good team, and with a good team comes a lot of sometimes big egos, sometimes their own personal stuff going on, and it's going to take a lot of uncomfortable conversations. And for me personally, just one way that I've leaned into that is really getting more present with myself through breath work, and also with cold therapy. Cold therapy, like if you could sit in the cold in cold water or ice bath or a cold shower, it can be really challenging at first. And I know this is, a bit of a trend right now, but cold therapy has really helped me so much, because it just allows me to really be present with people. And sometimes, kind of how we started this podcast, just being present with someone will create a space where they get their own self-realization, and then they take the steps forward on their own. And it's a beautiful process to witness. So that's just something, as an entrepreneur, if you're not doing cold therapy, you're missing out. And you could do something that's really simple. It's free. You just take a cold shower, and it just helps getting through those uncomfortable situations.
Yes, absolutely. 100% agree. During the pandemic, I got into cold showers and eventually ice baths, and I was doing
Nice.
them pretty frequently. So it was kind of like, I don't think I had, yeah, we couldn't really travel, right? So I felt like I couldn't go to all my retreat centers that I normally would for plant medicines. So I just dived into the cold plunges. I trained so much with, and I created an online community with some Wim Hof instructors. And so we were all like a panel, and we informed, in the middle of COVID, we were on one of those apps where it's like an audio chat, and we just
Mm.
had like a class every day in the morning, like how to take a cold shower, what are the benefits? And we just kept that going because everyone was on lockdown, right? And so it really carried me through and so many other people through. And then I got to the point to where I had trained gradually to actually get to the point. I don't recommend this to anyone. Actually, I'll just say that I don't recommend it, but I did it because
Right.
it served me, right? So
Yes.
I ended up, there was one moment where I ended up doing a 20-minute ice bath with grace and ease. I wasn't forcing myself. That wasn't
Wow.
my goal. I wasn't doing, I was meditating. So I did feel a little like I wasn't keeping track of time I mean, I had a timer on, but I was kind of just like, didn't pay attention to it. But anyway, that's what served me in the moment, because and it took me into this deep spiritual realm. So
Yeah.
I almost felt like I took ayahuasca that day.
Yeah.
And again,
Yeah.
I don't recommend it to people. Not that long. You don't need it that long. You just 2 or 3 minutes, just do you. But for me, that served me. And my only point was, um, it was just so impactful, and I knew intuitively that it was taking me deep enough to get back to the core of who I was,
Mm.
back to my true self. And I'll
Yes.
still do a 20-minute ice bath here and there. I know it's not necessary, and I know I don't need to put my body through all of that all the time. But again, it's just like that hardcore reset. When I feel like
Mm.
I'm a computer that just needs to be wiped off,
Yeah.
I go into that 20-minute cold bath.
Amazing. Congratulations. That's longer than I've ever gone. I think my longest was 13. But yes,
Well, that's pretty good.
it's good. But yeah, 20 is incredible. And it's just such a testimony that you can do so much more than you think you can, like those limiting thoughts and beliefs. And it is such a great like reset, like you said. Like stress cannot live in that cold for that long, right?
It
So it's like
can't.
it's a
You just
stress,
surrender.
it's a
You just
surrender.
surrender. And that's
Yeah.
what I needed the most, is with COVID and the stress. And, I was, my real estate business was shifting very rapidly. I mean, now it's a blessing because now I'm doing what I'm doing now,
Yes.
and I don't do real estate full time like I used to. But it just, I needed to change my relationship with surrendering, because
Yes.
I used to think that was vulnerability, or I'd be taken advantage of, or I don't know. I had all these beliefs around it. And the cold's like, no, no, no. Let me help you rebuild your relationship with surrender. And I'm like, okay, let's go.
Wow, what a gift. I believe surrenders is one of the biggest gifts in this world. So amazing that the cold brought you to that, and kudos to you. It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Amazing. So we are almost out of time, but I gotta ask a human design question. Most people know
Yes.
I'm like obsessed with human design. Like even my friends, even my family. Like I have a birth chart for every single person in my family, even people who are like, I don't believe in it. And I'm like, I don't care. Let me see your birth time. It's just so fascinating to me. And I think I even asked you when we were hanging out with our friend, like, what was your type? And you said reflector. And reflectors are rare. For anyone who doesn't know the human design system, there's five main types. Alex is a reflector, and only 1% of the population are reflectors. So
Wow.
I just want to ask you a quick little question, and you can keep
Please.
it short and sweet if you want. Yeah. Any insight on what it's like to be a successful, purpose-driven reflector? That's the
Mm.
question. And then I want to say one other thing. I think people have a myth about reflectors,
Mm.
like almost as if they're not useful to society, or maybe they don't have as much drive
Mm.
as me, like maybe I'm a manifesting generator or any other type in human design. So yeah, if you could share any insight, what is it like to be a successful and purpose-driven reflector?
Mm. Mm. Well, I would say it's challenging. I would say it's challenging. However, the challenging is wonderful because I feel that's how we grow is through challenge. And it's challenging in the sense, just to shift to the human design aspect of it. It's challenging in the sense because it's easy to take on people's stuff as a reflector. We're like empty in, our I don't know the terminology.
All your centers are undefined. Yeah.
Thank you. All the centers are undefined. So it can be very I could be very easily influenced and very easily trusting towards other people, and this has caused me many lessons and challenges in my life because I trusted too easily or I was influenced by someone very easily. So that's the challenging aspect of it. However, it did teach me these lessons, and I truly believe lessons are kind of a code in itself, that we came here to learn these lessons so that we can grow and then not repeat them. So it's a bit of a paradox. It's a double-edged sword because you're susceptible for these experiences and these lessons, but then you get to learn them, and then if you're wise enough, you don't make them again. And that's kind of part of it. That's part of this whole game. So it's I'd like to trust people. I want to trust people. I want to build on trust. It's a big thing for me. And not everybody's trustworthy is something I've
Mm.
learned over the years. So it's like, okay, you gotta be careful, but at the same time, not too careful that you're closed off. And because the beauty of it, I'll try not to take too long, but the beauty of it is when you trust someone and things work, it works really fast. There's a speed of trust, like I
Mm.
trust you, you trust me, and now we're moving in momentum. We're moving things really fast. If you don't trust me, or if I don't trust you, things take a lot longer to manifest, and that's okay. That's part of the process. Um, but the universe, likes a certain speed, so it's great to work with people that you trust because then you could get a lot done usually quicker than other people can, which sometimes helps when you're running a business. Speed is key.
Beautiful, lovely. Thank you for that. And what I kind of heard was, being connected to humanity, but also just having discernment when you need to be in your own individuality, your unique expression that you're having this experience from, right? Like when you need to kind of separate from everyone's influence or emotions or whatever they're putting out there. And then also just cultivating this dynamic where it's like the opportunity is there for us to offer trust to each other. And I like to think of reflectors being kind of ahead of everyone else, because you guys are kind of like taking a step back constantly to like look at, like, see how
Mhm.
the world is working, and the rest of us are so busy we can't see the forest, we just see
Mhm.
the tree, we just see the
Mhm.
leaf. But you guys, I feel like, this is my perception, you kind of take some time to look at the whole forest in its entirety, and then you
Mhm.
reflect back to us. And that's why I think your presence was so powerful for me, because it's just like, you didn't have to say much. You might have said a few words, but it was just like your energy, like you were just like literally a mirror. Instead of you
Mhm.
and your face, there was a mirror there, and I
Yeah.
saw myself.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, I'm observing what I'm actually saying, instead of being immersed in identifying with the thought.
Mm.
And I was able to be in your shoes and look at the forest of what my excuse was for anyone. We're going back to what we started off with, my example. So that was a beautiful moment. So thank you for that insight on what it's like to be a reflector.
Thank you for asking. It's rare that people ask me that, especially in a entrepreneurial way. So thank you. It was good to reflect on that. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Cool. Do you have any words of wisdom that you want to leave us with for today?
I would just be echoing what I said earlier, that, nature has all the answers. I don't have all the answers. I'm just enabling myself to connect with nature and allow that to work through me. And I encourage everybody to just connect with nature. It has all the answers. It's always been there. It always will be there. Mother Nature always wins. And it's a wonderful journey to get back to that. And yeah, I encourage everyone to connect with nature as much as you can.
Beautiful. I love that. So important.
Yes.
Thank you. And yeah, thank you for this conversation. And Alex's information will be in the show notes. So if he resonated with you today, feel free to check out his Instagram or connect with him on any platform that's listed. He's just an awesome person. And today's
Thank you.
conversation has been so enjoyable. So thank you so much, Alex.
Thank you, Vanessa. Thanks for having me. This was so much fun. Thank you.
Absolutely. Namaste, everyone.
Namaste.
Hey, Tribe, thank you so much for tuning in to today's podcast. I can't wait to share next week's podcast episode with you. Now, to stay up to date, go to the link for the Power and Podcast website. Sign up for the newsletter so you can actually get on our newsletter, and you'll get monthly emails about our podcast episodes ahead of time. So you'll get to see which episodes are planned out for the whole entire month, so that way you know when to tune in. So check out the Power and Podcast website. You could sign up for the newsletter to sign up for those updates, or maybe you just go to the website and check out all the episodes that are highlighted there. Thanks again. Have an amazing, inspiring day.